Hello, trading has closed on May 15th, 2024. We'll start with our disclaimer as we always do. We'll go over our calls and we'll make some predictions. Well, this is my trading plan for Monday. Monday is the 18th of March, 2024. Please remember it's a prediction. I can change it. I can be completely wrong. And if you're going to risk money on the call, do so at your own risk. We looked for the early high pattern, which we got, and Monday should have the early low. We crossed an old target off the list, 5108.59, support at and just under the target. We had a high called on the 8th of the month. I was getting pretty leery of the whole thing. I said the longer we go without breaking down, the greater the chance it wasn't going to work. I made the case for going up, and I said the only thing that would kill the idea would be if we responded to this wall into the close by gapping under this low. And I said if that break were confirmed, we could go down hundreds of handles, even though I thought we'd see new highs later. Well, we got the first part. We gapped under this. Now the question is, are we going to get the confirmation? Any break has to be confirmed. These are the patterns I'm looking for next week. And I want to point out that I said if confirmed, and even earlier in the week in big capital letters I wrote, we needed confirmation, because you'll see the reasons why I don't think we're going to get it. I think this is a false break. We have a higher MEJT target. Usually by the end of the day, the target's defined, but the target price can change once. And we don't have a defined target yet, but there is a higher target. And if we don't gap down smartly, that should print. This is a wall with gap pattern. These things tend to fill, and they usually fill fairly quickly. Most commonly, this gap will fill Monday, and if not, by Tuesday's open. And if that doesn't happen, even though it tends to fill, if it doesn't fill by Tuesday's open, it doesn't have to fill anytime soon. But even though it's just not required to fill by then, usually, not always, it'll fill by Monday. We had an ultimate buy signal in the morning. That certainly worked. In the afternoon, we had an ultimate buy signal and a buy signal. We've gone higher, but not high enough to satisfy any of the possible targets. So we still have a higher target in play. Well, we've had this, what some have called a rising wedge. I said until you broke through this with conviction, you couldn't really count on it. We get confirmation if we trade under today's close, but I also said the closer we came to the apex, the less important that break was. Still true. Well, this was the count we had with the question marks here. I didn't really have a good Fibonacci relationship with this fifth wave, but everything else was in place for a high on the 8th. It's held so far. All we needed was confirmation. I'm not seeing it, and I don't like to wait too long when you're trying to pick tops. If it doesn't work fast, I typically get out. We had this is the wave blue 5. Doesn't break any rules, but that's a pretty unusual ratio for the fifth wave. Doesn't break any rules, but still, you really want to see this drop in spades, and I'm not seeing it. Let's see how we count this line, which at the 30-minute chart looks like kind of a mess. I can't count it on the 30-minute. But I can count it on the 5-minute. It's an ABC. And if you take the height of wave C, is exactly equal to the height of A, blue B, blue C, and they all work. Now when you look at wave blue C, you can count an ABC, which ends here, but I'm preferring to count in brackets with the A bracket here, ABC for B bracket, and the C bracket at 0.618 times A ends right at the low. We have a perfect wave count with wave balance ending right at the low. This is an impulse. That's a corrective wave, which, although dropping all day, couldn't manage to close. I mean, it gapped down, hit lower low. We closed over all these intraday lows. I think that's a corrective wave, and most likely is wave 2 of wave 5, which ended right here. And if that's the right count, we're going to start wave 3 of 5 up. And that should take us to new highs. You can see this is the close. We didn't do anything. We've been dropping for days, and we just can't take out any of these highs, any of these lows. Can't take out any of these lows. We stopped right at MEJT support. We stopped right at the Fibonacci target. I mean, this was the impulse. That's the corrective wave. We're going to have to gap under this low if we're going to get anywhere. And if that happens, then the call is wrong, and I'm going to know before the open. But if I'm right, we're going to gap up smartly on Monday. So Monday's pattern has the really low. Doesn't tell us how we close, but I think we'll have the really low. Friday didn't show a rally into the close, nor a straight line drop. Monday's open should substitute for that deficiency by gapping sharply. Gapping down smartly confirms the trend line break and should lead to lower prices. I don't think that's going to happen. There's a higher MEJT target unless we gap down smartly. The rules say it prints. We gapped down, hit a lower low, but closed over intraday lows. There was massive volume in these indices, and such volume typically accompanies a low. And I want to say the massive volume with a trend line break couldn't take out any lows. Now, time doesn't end until Monday's open, but that's not what you want to see if you're a bear. Nasdaq McClellan oscillator is given a Bollinger Band reversal buy signal, and my preferred wave count has us completing wave 2 of 5. I'm looking for a gap up Monday, followed by a rally to a new all-time high fairly soon, not necessarily the same day. If that doesn't happen, it should be clear before the open. I just don't have a plan, because I think this is all the hallmarks I look for in a false break, and if it isn't a false break, then I'm just wrong, and I'll know that before the open, and so will everybody else. But I think you got everything you need for a false break. We had a chance for a top. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. And if we can't break down, I'm going to go back to the standard existing trend, which is higher. I think that's going to hold and we gap up. And yeah, it's a pattern with the early low, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But my indicators say we're gapping up and going higher. If I'm wrong, don't have to risk any money, because you'll know before the open. And that's today's call.